Scott Cramer, he did a Milk episode for himself where he was talking about the pointlessness of the ads, and it's great. I'm so glad that the Milk episode introduced me to your channel, because now I've got a new person to watch, and I'm gonna consume all your stuff. I hope to do something, you know, with him, about him at some point, because it was really cool. So,
Matt, my guy. I've got some theories about chapstick that'll drive you wild. What's up, strugglers? If you watch the YouTuber Diamond Bolt, you'll know that in December he made a video where he watched all of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. But going into that video, he wasn't really a fan of the Ninja Turtles.
To tell you the truth, I've never been that into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
He said out of the 6 theatrical releases, the only movies he had seen were 2007's TMNT and the 2 Michael Bay movies. Well, guess what? I am the complete opposite of that. I was a big turtle guy growing up. You know, the TV shows were my jam. My brother and I had Ninja Turtles themed birthday parties. I played those video games like my life depended on it, okay? These were my go-to action figures as a kid. Look at these things. Can you see them? Iconic, come on. I loved the 90s live action Ninja Turtles movies as a kid, and I would watch them back to back to back a lot growing up. But that is where it stopped for me. I have not seen TMNT, and I definitely have not seen the Michael Bay movies. So really, Diamond Bolt is my shadow.
My arch nemesis.
I wanted to give my thoughts on each Ninja Turtles theatrical release, just like he did, but from a different perspective. Maybe watch his video after this one and see how our takes compare. I want to preface all of this with, I am not a knowledgeable superfan of the Ninja Turtles franchise, okay? I know some nerd is gonna be in here like, oh my goodness, you got this minor fact incorrect? How could one possibly not know every single little thing about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I haven't seen anything Ninja Turtles related since I was a child. Everything I say is based on 15-year-old memories and first impressions. That being said, let's begin. The first film on our journey is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. Incredible title, we're off to a good start. Fun fact about this film, Corey Feldman, the guy who played Mouth in The Goonies, is the voice of Donatello. And another fun fact, Donatello's mouth is horrifying. The whole premise of this movie is a gang of unruly teenagers are going around New York City and stealing stuff. Why are they stealing stuff? Well, because this guy Shredder told them to do it. Yeah, honey, Shredder. You ever heard of him? He's training them to be ninjas so he can form a clan of his own soldiers to do his dang bidding, and they call themselves the Foot. The Foot Clan. A fearsome bunch, to be sure. I heard Dan Schneider is the head of recruiting? I don't know, it's weird. My favorite part of this movie as a kid was always the Foot's hideout. Look at this thing. How sick is this? It's a skate park arcade.
Check it out, man. Anything you guys want, we got it.
Got any cigarettes?
Regular or menthol?
And they got cigs? Sign me up! I've never wanted to be in a gang so bad in my life! This movie's got all the classic Ninja Turtles characters, April O'Neil, Casey Jones, Shredder, of course, and a shameless amount of Domino's pizza. I think this whole movie is just one big Domino's ad, and yeah, I'm okay with it. During the entire film, there's kind of a will they won't they between Casey and April. Casey is just this dumb guy's guy.
Lead the way, Toots.
Toots?
Babe, sweet cakes?
Princess.
He's a real gentleman. Just a little early morning braless massage, fun for the whole family. But in terms of the turtles, I'm sure you've noticed the way that they look. I think this still holds up today. It looks fine. If it wasn't for the limitations of the facial movements, I don't know. It's just kind of fun. It's not super realistic, but it's got a nice look, I don't know. And even the fight scenes, they're incredibly goofy and slapstick, but they're tons of fun to watch. It's very Jackie Chan-esque. Spoilers for the ending of the movie, if you haven't seen this, 30-some-year-old movie at this point. But Splinter ends up frickin' yucking Shredder into a garbage truck, throws him off a building, it's awesome. And Casey Jones crushes him with a trash compactor. Savagery. I love it. Everybody there saw it happen and no one says a word about it. They're just like, all right, well, nothing to see here. Mutilated body in the garbage truck, don't bother looking in there. When the cops finally show up and ask what happened, the kids are just like,
Check out the East Warehouse over Lebanon Island. Get your answers there.
all they're gonna find there is pinball machines and cigarettes. How about you check the garbage truck right there with the body in it? So I really like this movie. There's a couple of lines that actually made me chuckle out loud while I was watching it.
Danny?
Don't shoot. I don't think it's loaded, kid.
You're a claustrophobic.
You want a fist in the mouth? Mm-mm. You've never even looked at another guy before.
But this movie still slaps hard. Let's see what the critics have to say about it. So, should you take your kids to see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I'm not recommending that you do. This movie will not enrich your child's worldview. Oh yes, only the most worldview enriching cinema for our children. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind on loop in this household. Ah, The Secret of the Ooze, my personal favorite as a kid. Fun fact about this movie, it's actually been featured in the background of a ton of my videos on this art board that was in the background of my old studio. It's been a while since I've seen it. I hope it's still as good as I remember. After the greatest opening sequence in film history, how freaking good does this pizza look? The movie just never slows down. Campy action scenes, eye-popping set design, freaking Vanilla Ice is here. What the heck? Let's go. No Casey Jones in this one because parents are freaking nerds. So they replaced him with the inoffensive Kino. He's fine. He's a pizza delivery guy who meets the turtles when he accidentally stumbles upon a bunch of dads robbing an outlet mall. Where's the gosh darn mulch? Shredder, I hardly know her. He suspects that the turtles are living in April's apartment because there's just an endless order of pizzas going to that address. So he just barges his way in and confronts her about it.
Where'd these come from? Those? Are mine.
Excuse me, bro, f you. This is my apartment and you don't even know me. You have no reason to act confused about nunchucks on my table. Also, get out. When I rewatched these movies, I went and wrote down a list of my main takeaways from each one. And for this movie, I just wrote, they recast April and this mother effer Shredder didn't die. So yeah, Shredder's built different and he survived the trash compactor. And his new mission is to kill the turtles by creating even more powerful mutants of his own. So his goons break into a lab where the mutant ooze is being made to steal it. And I always love watching the background characters in fights like this. What are you doing, buddy? Not very helpful, are we? In the first movie, they had that gang hideout that I was obsessed with as a kid. Well, in this movie, the thing I was obsessed with was the turtles' new home. They shack up in this abandoned subway station, and are you kidding me? This is so cool. Excuse me? This is so cool. Maybe this is why I always liked The Amazing Spider-Man 2 so much. They got the same layer. In terms of the fight scenes in this movie, they're a lot less fighty and a lot more silly, if that makes sense. The biggest one in the movie is when the turtles are fighting the new mutants at this club, and most of it is just goofs and gags. I mean, they defeat Shredder with the power of rock and roll, for goodness sake. Oh, sorry, that's not accurate. He actually survived that as well.
I can't take this anymore.
Don't worry though, he immediately kills himself by accident. So no blood on the turtles' hands? They're not murderers. Mom and Dad, they're the good guys. They just boop the bad guys on the head. And then, oops! Rewatching this movie as an adult, the turtles are a little bit more annoying than I remember. They had to dumb it down to make everything less violent and dramatic because parents were being lame. Shocker. But it's still a fun movie. I guess the secret of the ooze was really the friends we made along the way. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time, depending on who you ask. The one with all the legs.
Wow, a legorama. Yeah, I'll say. Hey, shoo-wee.
Not to be confused with Turtles in Time, the video game that I could not even get halfway through as a child. Fun fact about this movie, we had it on VHS and DVD in the Cramer household. Jealous? Compared to every other Ninja Turtles movie, this was a box office failure. But it was a Scott's office success, because I've seen it like 20 times, and my brother Greg loved it too, so. Jaden even watched it with me a few days ago, and she said, and I quote, "It was pretty good." So yeah.
This video's already a classic. 2 seconds in, it's a classic.
Have fun at the Oscars, losers.
The premise is that April and the Turtles find this ancient teleportation device, and they accidentally switch places with some Japanese soldiers from 400 years in the past, and now everybody's just trying to get home. No, I'm kidding. That is not the plot. That would be pretty crazy, though. I'm kidding about kidding. That is the plot. So this one's a little weird. It's like The Wizard of Oz if The Wizard of Oz was about humanoid turtles going back in time to defend a small village from a Japanese emperor and some nasty Englishmen. It's actually not, it's really nothing like Wizard of Oz. It bounces back and forth between ancient Japan and modern day New York, and there's a lot of confusion the entire time because most of the characters are fish out of water for the majority of the movie, but it's still got some of those familiar TMNT tropes and themes. The main villain dies, and they just nonchalantly brush it off like nothing happened. Classic Turtles. And they weren't even the ones that killed him, it was some other guy, so they kept their body count as low as possible. There's a really cool sword fight with Leonardo at one point.
Kill him.
There. Short enough for you?
And actually another Spider-Man-esque scene where Mikey rescues this kid from a fire.
Russell, eat your heart out.
I think I'm starting to realize that Spider-Man is just the Ninja Turtles with less pizza.
Pizza time.
Ultimately, this is the least Ninja Turtle-y movie of all of them, in my opinion. It just didn't feel right taking him out of New York, you know? And like I said, I know there's some nerds that are gonna be like, well, actually, but it just felt weird to me. Still like the movie though. And with that, let's get into some uncharted territory for me and check out the more recent movies that I never saw as a kid. TMNT. This is the only theatrical release that is fully animated. Fun fact, this movie is actually kind of part 4? Like after the original trilogy in a weird way. They tease it a little bit at the end of this. There's a wall of mementos from the first live action movies, and they kind of hint to the fact that all that other stuff actually happened, so I like to believe that these are all in the same universe. I also like to believe that when I turn around, there's gonna be a stack of cash up. Okay, nope. Check out this bad guy eating an apple with a knife. Classic. No good guy has ever eaten an apple with a knife. That is exclusively a villain trait. Heroes eat their apples with their hands, the way God intended. This movie starts out with the Turtles all kind of just doing their own thing. They're not fighting crime together anymore. The band has broken up, okay? Zane is off trying to be a hero all alone, and Harry Styles is in the forest becoming a better man or something. There are these 13 ancient monsters running amok all over the dang city, and this rich guy is trying to collect them all so he can reverse a spell from 3,000 years ago that made him immortal. Remember when these movies were about troubled teens stealing cassette players? I'm really not sure how I missed this movie when it came out, given the fact that I was 11 years old and absolutely the target demographic. Was I too cool for the Ninja Turtles? Yes, I was. Look at this kid. I don't have time for the Turtles. I'm too busy getting ass. I like how dark and intense this film is at times. It's not just some flick for little kids to turn off their brain to, you know? Dare I say, it might enrich your worldview. I don't know. Mainly because of the dynamic between Zane and Raphael and Leonardo. Those two characters have always had such an interesting relationship that's ripe for character development and lesson learning, stuff like that. If we're being honest, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has always kind of been Raphael versus Leonardo, and everything else just kind of orbits around that. In this movie specifically, there's a fight scene between the two when Leo finds out that Raphael is playing vigilante, and it is raw. This is not some brotherly tussle. They're taking kill shots at each other. Maybe it's good that I never saw this as a kid, because I might have dealt some serious damage to my brother if he ever beat me in NFL Street. It really hits you in the feels though, after Raphael essentially kicks Leo's ass and abandons him, only for him to then get taken by the bad guys because he couldn't fight back. I don't know if you've ever read The Scarlet Ibis, but this was like that. And that f***ed me up. Everything culminates with this big laser in the sky. Wow, never seen that done before. And as always, the Turtles get away without having to actually kill the bad guy themselves. Hold on to that squeaky clean image. Never let it go. The stakes in this movie were pretty high. Only the fate of the world or something. I don't know, not a big deal. Obviously, you can do a lot more with animation than you can with those old clumsy suits. So there's more going on in this movie, but there's less charm to it. It was an edgier take on the Ninja Turtles than the previous movies, but it kind of falls in line with the show that was on TV at the time. But I liked it. Let's see what the audience has to say about it. Utter trash. The animation was ugly as hell, storyline non-existence, villains were too weak, lack of actions. Well, I thought it was okay. 2014's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This movie is commonly referred to as the Michael Bay version, but he didn't direct it. He just was a producer on it. He may as well have directed it though, because by golly, the amount of lens flare will make your dang head spin. Fun fact, Johnny Knoxville is actually the voice of Leonardo in this movie. Because when I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, this one is not a continuation of the previous films, and they kind of give a new origin story than we're used to. Megan Fox is April O'Neil now, and apparently the turtles were her pets when she was a kid, and she's even the one who named them. Kind of a weird direction to take things, especially because Mikey is super horny for her all the time.
Oh, she's so hot I can feel my shell tightening.
We can hear you.
She's kind of like your mom, isn't she? Ew. Did George Lucas write this? A lot of things were kind of predictable about this movie. Like, literally the first frame that this guy showed up, I knew for a fact that he was the bad guy. They try to make him look like the good guy. But I'm smarter than you, Michael Bay. Something that is kind of fun this time around is how violent the action scenes are. Like, there are some good old-fashioned Foot Clan soldiers in the subway taking people hostage, and the turtles absolutely brutalize them. Murked every last one of them. As a matter of fact, all of the action scenes are very well done. Sometimes they're kind of hard to see, and the damn lens flares will give you a headache, but the action itself is pretty cool.
That spire is filled with tons of chemical toxins. In a few hours, Shredder is going to unleash all that stuff over the whole city.
Amazing Spider-Man 1 looking ass. The turtles are basically superheroes in this movie, not just ninjas.
Are you guys okay? We're bulletproof.
And that actually doesn't bother me as much as I thought it might. I'm used to them just being kind of regular guys who know how to fight. And now they are tanks. It's different, but it's not bad. The note that I wrote down after watching this movie was, this time around the sponsor is Pizza Hut. It's very distasteful.
Starting to break.
Of course, you've all tasted the 5-cheese pizza.
A pizza with that variety of cheese is a culinary impossibility.
The final fight with Shredder on the rooftop looks really good. You can actually see everything that's happening. That's not always the case with modern action movies. You can run into a lot of like quick cuts and close-ups, but this, you can see it all. I get that it's fully CG, but it looks good. Overall, I did like the movie, but it is the one that I remember the least about. I watched it just a couple of weeks ago, and it's already very spotty. But Shell Shocked is a top tier song. That got me through a lot of early morning fall camp weightlifting sessions in college, so good job, Michael Bay. Congratulations to everyone involved. Which brings us to our final movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Out of the Shadows. I don't know where the turtles are gonna go this time, but I have a pretty good idea of where they're not gonna be. In the Shadow. Fun fact about this movie, Will Arnett's character selling his breath is what inspired that 90 Day Fiancé girl to sell her farts. Probably. I don't actually know. I made that up. This movie starts out smoking hot with an absolutely shameless Megan Fox schoolgirl scene. You know we had to do it for the boys, baby.
Look, everybody, I got a cowboy. Look at his muscles.
Excuse me? Give me my hat back? You thief? If the 2007 TMNT movie is the darkest of all of them, I think this one might be the silliest. And that's due in large part to the bad guys. They finally brought in fan favorites Bebop and Rocksteady.
Inside every human, there's a dormant gene which ties us to our animal ancestors.
Okay, Tyler Perry. They also brought in the iconic villain, Krang.
It's like a chewed up piece of gum with a face!
And of course, everybody's favorite, it's not a Mario game without Bowser, and it's not a true Turtles movie without Shredder, baby. Let's go! People thought Spider-Man 3 had too many villains? Casey Jones was reintroduced for the third time, and this is definitely my least favorite version of the character. He's about as edgy and exciting as a bar of soap. Let's do a plot speedrun. The Turtles are having this internal struggle about how people perceive them. They know that they're good guys, but the outside world sees them as monsters.
What are those things? They're monsters!
Not monsters.
So when the opportunity arises for them to possibly become human, they're torn on whether or not they should do it. Is it more important to blend into society, or is it more important for society to learn to accept things that might be new and different to them? What is this, liberal propaganda? I'm kidding. All the while, the villains are working on a scheme to create interdimensional travel so they can send an alien army through a hole in the sky and take over New York City. Wow, never seen that one before. New York can't catch a break. You know there are other cities, right?
The magnificence of what we're about to do. Yummy, isn't it? We'll be gods to future generations.
I'll be a god. You'll be just what you've always been.
What's that?
A nerd. Well, wouldn't you know it, the turtles come to the conclusion that they're perfect just the way they are, and Raphael destroys the antidote that would make them human. Didn't even ask Splinter if he might want to use it though. Pretty uncool, guys. Can't be easy being a 6-foot-tall rat in New York City. And then, you know, the turtles defeat the bad guys without killing anybody, as they do, and they're recognized by the city as heroes. So it's a nice, happy ending. They only ate like one pizza the entire movie though, and it wasn't even shamelessly branded. So 2 out of 10. I'd rather watch Big Heads. So now that I've seen every movie, what's the deal? How do I feel about them? They're all freaking awesome, dude. It's the Ninja Turtles, come on. I like some better than others, but across the board, I would say they're all worth watching. Of course, I have a slight bias for the original trilogy because I grew up with it, but the new ones surprised me with how good they were. Like, especially the 2 Michael Bay ones, I thought those were gonna be just dumb. All 3 versions are a little bit different than each other, campy and slapstick, dark and edgy, and then a decent mixture of both. I never felt like I wasn't watching a Ninja Turtles movie. I think maybe the closest I got was in the Turtles in Time one, but that's just because it was different than the other movies. It's not a Ninja Turtles thing. It's just different than the others. One glaring difference is the Foot Clan. What the hell? They're so different every time. The 90s version is superior. I'm gonna come out and say that. That's my hot take. The 90s Foot Clan is the way to go. It made sense for them to always be getting their asses kicked because they were just a bunch of like troubled teenagers. They weren't highly trained soldiers. How come the highly trained soldiers still suck so bad? I also like the original Casey Jones the best, even though he aged like milk. The newer ones just kind of felt off, like they weren't reckless enough or something. I don't know. He just isn't a bad boy anymore. Daddy wants a bad boy. Anyway, there's my milquetoast review of all the movies. They're all pretty good. I've been working on this video on and off for like 8 weeks now, and it just feels good to finally be free from this prison. Which Ninja Turtle are you? Let me know in the comments down below. I think I may be Leonardo, but Donatello's a close second. Again, if you're interested to hear what Diamond Bolt has to say about these movies, the link to that video is in the description. I am also gonna go watch it now. I'm curious to see what he thought. Sorry I didn't speak any Italian in this video like I hinted at in the last one. I am in fact a liar. I'm also really glad that these old toys came in handy. They've been in my parents' basement since I was a young boy. Got some freaking classics back here though. I mean, you got something from each of the original movies too. Check this out. The Foot Clan, you got this monstrosity, and then Turtles in Time. How much, are these worth anything? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. That's all I got for you today. Extra thank you to my patrons. Those that are listed here are in the top tier on there. Guys, if you were Foot Clan soldiers and I was a Ninja Turtle, I would not pulverize you in a dark subway, I promise. Pretty wild that those struggle bugs are actually gonna be made, huh? We hit the goal. Who the heck would have thought? All right, that's all I got. Thank you again for watching. I will talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.